Welcome to NAIFA's Advisor Today podcast series, where we focus on how financial advisors work, live, and give to their local communities and our greater financial services industry. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to 2023 Advisors Today podcast. Again, we can't wait to see you in person at our next in-person meeting, but today we get to bring some of the best minds in the insurance and financial services industry together here on our podcast. Hi, I'm your host, Chris Gandy, one of your hosts with our wonderful co-host, Suzanne Carawan. Hi, Suzanne.
Hey, Chris.
So Suzanne, we have a wonderful guest today, but could you share with us a little bit about who our sponsor is for our opening show in 2023?
I would be delighted because it's not only a great guest we're going to hear from, but it's a new program too. So today's podcast is sponsored by NAIFA's Business Performance Center. You can locate that online at bpc.naifa.org. And the Business Performance Center is one collection of thought leadership that's all about how do you make your practice better? How do you make more money, right? How do you grow better? How do you perform better? And as part of the BPC for 2023, we have an advisory council that oversees that, and we have created a new program called the Coaches Circle. And the Coaches Circle really gathers together vetted individuals who are experts at providing coaching and business performance coaching, individual coaching to advisors. So today, we're delighted to have one of our founding members of the Coaches Circle, Joe Templin, who's also a loyal NAIFA member. So we're delighted to have Joe as part of his kind of foray into the Coaches Circle and being able to kind of spread some really interesting messages we're going to touch on today.
So Suzanne, Chris, thank you for bringing me on. And I'm not just a member, I've been a 25 plus year member at this point. And even though I don't write insurance, I am the New York State membership chair because of the value that NAIFA brings to our profession and ultimately to the public. So that's why I continue to be involved, licensed, even though I don't sell, so that I can continue to serve because of everything that I've gotten from NAIFA over the decades.
Well, Joe, welcome. You're in the coaches, let's call it the Coaches Corner. Thank you for being here. We appreciate the time, energy, and effort, and everyone who listens to us will love the insight. So, Joe, in my previous life, I played sports. So, we always had to listen to the coach, right? And so share with us a little bit about why coaching is so pertinent to be able to optimize success.
This is interesting because we all have different experiences with coaches. My background is as a martial artist. And so we literally had somebody walking around beating us with a stick, which unfortunately you can't do to new reps anymore. But there's an old saying that champions want to be coached and coached hard. And we as human beings have a tendency to say good enough. It's an energy saving mechanism because in the old days when there were saber-toothed tigers and we had to literally fight for our food, there was a calorie deficit. And so we did anything possible to cruise where we could. And that has carried forward to where we are today. So somebody writes a couple of big premiums and they're like, this is awesome. And they take vacation. Somebody gets a big investment case and suddenly they've got some nice systematic revenue and they want to take their foot off of the pedal and just be able to coast. And coaches have what is known as the Michelangelo phenomenon. Michelangelo looked at the chunk of marble and saw the David within and removed the material around it to expose it to the world, as he said. And that's what a good coach does, is they look at the individual and they see the potential within and help that person unlock it. And so that's why I do, whether as a martial arts instructor, as a Cub Scout or Boy Scout leader, or as a coach with financial advisors or executives, is I help them see their own potential within and do what is necessary to remove the things that are interfering.
Awesome. So you mentioned a couple kind of key things there dealing with coaching. I had my experience with coaching and in something where I was gifted talent wise, but the world is written with, as our coach would tell us, with people that have the opportunity to, or they have talent, but they're not able to put the talent and the skill set together to be able to perform. I'll just give you an example. The most talented guy I ever seen play basketball outside of Michael Jordan and a couple other guys was a guy that used to play on a playground. And he used to come, they used to call him Magic because he used to wear a Magic Johnson jersey. Mm-hmm. He was always like 200 pounds overweight, but he used to wear a Magic Johnson jersey. And he used to actually wear Timberland boots out on a basketball court. Everybody would say, like, come on, man. Everybody would say, no, he's magic. Like, literally, he's unbelievable. And so that guy wasn't able to put his talents into a system to be able to, for the world to optimize and for them to be able to capture his skill set. But on the playground, which you hear about in New York, like Rutgers Playground, you hear about all these places where the greats go, even the best NBA players go, and they get beat up, they get beat because of that. So how can we collectively, as an advisor, what are the things that we should be doing that we inherently aren't in us, but we need to have a coach to bring out of us? So we have
one of the biggest things is, that individual that you were talking about, Magic, he was 200 pounds overweight. And one of the reasons why is because he probably lacked discipline at the plate, not like in baseball, but in terms of what he was consuming. And a lot of people lack discipline in terms of what they're consuming with their minds. They sit there and they, eat Cheetos while sitting on the couch while watching the Kardashians or whatever new, reality TV is, instead of feeding their mind with knowledge, with positive things, and having a desire for challenge. My biggest asset is not my creativity or my intelligence. It is my addiction to challenge, to wanting to do the hard things on a regular basis. So getting up in the morning and training, even if I don't want to, running in the rain, even though I absolutely hate having squishy feet and all that, picking up the phone. I hate the phone so much that I did not have a phone when I was a new rep for 5 years in my apartment because I hated dialing so much. But I did it every single day and did the dials that I had to do to lay the groundwork for my business. So it's having that discipline of what you consume, whether it's people, knowledge, food, etc., and being able to every single day do the little things that you need to do, because the little things end up being the big things. You can skip one particular day getting on the phone to schedule appointments if you're a new rep. That's not going to hurt you. But it does hurt you because of that nonlinear growth curve that's on the cover of my book, or the flywheel. You skip one day, you're actually losing 2 or 3 days worth of progress. Is that compound interest that Albert Einstein said was the eighth one in the world, which applies to cash value life insurance. It applies to investment. And it applies to people. If you spent a half hour every single day working on your language, at the end of the year, that is the equivalent of about 188 hours. That is the equivalent of a 9 to 5 every single day for 4 weeks. If you were taken into an office and worked on your language every single day for 8 hours a day for 4 weeks, how spectacular would you be, Chris?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I think, Joe, exactly. I want to ask your opinion on this, because I think some people would say the concern they have is that something that can be taught and coached? Or is that something that's just inherently you're born with and you just happen to be like that 1% or that top 10%? Or is it, is it a combination? What's your take on that?
We all have potential, and everyone's like, oh, this person's such a high potential and, this person's got lower potential. But none of us reach nearly our potential. We can all get just a little bit better. The example that I use is if you're sitting on the couch, you're not going to get off and run a marathon the next day. But you can get up and you can go around the block. And then the next day you go around the block twice. And then you go a little bit further. And after a period of time of focused, consistent effort, you're going to be better. You're going to be able to do that 5K or 10K or ultimately a marathon. So I don't care where you are today. If you're keeping 3 appointments per week, guess what? Focus on keeping 4. And then do that. And then after that, focus on keeping 1 per day minimum, absolutely minimum. And you'll be keeping 5 or 7 in a week. And that's a big jump. and you can stay at that level as your body and your mind and your business acclimates to it, then you can add more. So it's the little consistent steps that make you better. As I say, you need to be consistent to be excellent. Let me repeat that. You need to be consistent to be excellent. I don't care if it's learning to play guitar, learning a language, being able to shoot a three-pointer like Chris, being able to practice your introduction language. Every single skill can be improved as long as you focus and do it consistently. And that is where I see a lot of reps falling off, in that they're not getting the reps that they need. When you're first few years in your business, you should be practicing language every single day. When you're an established rep, you should still focus on practicing your language occasionally, once a week, twice a week, whatever it is, just to make sure that you still have that skill set and it's sharpened and ready to use.
It's interesting you say that, Joe. I've recruited over 50 advisors that have still made it in the business, over 100 through my 20 some odd years. And I've been an advisor, I've been a sales manager, I've been a senior sales manager. I've kind of done that. And what's kind of interesting is that you're right. Is my manager once told me, he said, no one, 90% of blowouts flat tires don't happen because of blowouts. They happen because of slow leaks. And the slow leaks is the lack of discipline necessary to be able to do things necessary. So you're right. Most people don't fail out of the business because of a blowout. They fail because of the small things that add up to the big things that become monstrous because of the compound interest of those small things. And so let me ask you, let me go back. So how did you get started with coaching? I mean, coaching is pretty unique because there's so many paths in the financial services industry you can take. But why coaching? I mean, coaching is a thankless job in some respect, right? Because at the end of the day, the coach never really gets the credentials. It's always the Tom Brady's, or it's always the guy, the LeBron James. It's always one of those people who get the credentials, but behind them, they wouldn't have got there without the mindset, right, and the tools that the coach equipped them with. But when you interview the player, they always say, "I couldn't do it without the coach."
Exactly. And so I was taught early in my financial services career, where I was just dipping my toe into management, that management is the black velvet that allows the diamond to sparkle. And so that is one of the things. So coaching has always been my blood. My mom, the nun, yes, my mom was a nun before she had 6 kids. That's a story for another day. But she was also an educator. And my dad, former military, both first people in their family to go to college. So I grew up with this standard of excellence, and growing up on the farm, if you don't work, you don't eat. And I like to eat, so I learned to work pretty hard. But I was taught to understand and desire knowledge. And I've got a whole bunch of younger brothers and sisters. And so when I was 10 years old, I was my parents' assistant t-ball coach, working with my younger brothers and sisters. And I found out at 10 years old that I really loved doing this. Now, I was also, incredibly gifted intellectually. I used to be wicked smart. And so, teaching didn't call to me in the traditional sense, but I have always had some capacity around that. I tutored people in high school, in college. When I got my black belt, I was an assistant instructor. And in fact, I still am an assistant instructor today, 30 plus years later. I was a teaching assistant in graduate school. So these were these different components. And when I first entered financial services in graduate school, I realized that people didn't even understand the potential of life insurance. I mean, I was looking at these people who were making MDRT, and this is back in the days when it was only life insurance, and they didn't even really understand how life insurance worked. And so I started studying it, and I started understanding it, and I started doing, I was doing joint work as the junior individual to start, but very quickly I established myself as somebody who actually knew what was going on and was a good partner, because I spent a lot of time teaching other individuals. So I moved into being a college unit director with Northwestern, recruited and developed individuals. And then I went into field director, and then I was moving further along, and then I shifted gears so I could, instead of just teach individual reps, I was teaching agencies. I was going in and helping companies too. So I've been in this consulting, teaching, guiding mode for my entire life. And so it's just, to me personally, it's a natural evolution of having a strong desire to understand and a strong desire for others to be able to understand so that they can be the best that they possibly can. And so coaching is really a combination of teaching in some capacities, inspiring, but also being the drill sergeant that needs to get people's butt to make sure that they can do what they need to do to achieve their goals.
But it's a different win, right? I mean, the other piece.
Yes, it's a completely different win. Right. So I want to see the people that I coach get all the accolades. I want them to hit success
right? Like
of their type. Oh, yeah. So like some of the people that I coach, they have to text me when they get a new appointment scheduled every day. And depending their stage of business, is either 1, 2, or 3. So when they tell me that they got that second or third appointment of the day, I'm like all juiced for them. So I don't need to have those wins. I mean, I've won a world championship. I've done my ultra marathons. I've written $1 million premium a year. I've been to the top of the mountain in so many different ways. My goal now is to show other people how to get to the top of their mountain and be there with them, whether it's as the guide or the guy behind them, push them, come on, you can make it, you can make it.
So is it that accountability piece that really appeals to them? I mean, you're playing both parts, right? You're playing sometimes you need a little FTA, you need a little foot to ass, right?
Yep.
And sometimes you need a lot of, chest bumps and everything else and praise. But what do you find? I guess the big thing I would say is, what do you find why people quit? Right? We were just talking earlier this month.
People quit because we haven't developed resilience. We've made things too easy in this country. Convenience kills. Write that down. Convenience kills. Because, this didn't work. I'll just, go on a different dating app and find somebody else. This didn't work. You know what? I'll just, go get another credit card. This didn't work. I'll just switch majors. This didn't work. I can just abandon it and move forward. Well, if you burn the ships and you can't do that, or if you're so committed to the goal, as Nietzsche said, a man who has a strong enough why will overcome it anyhow. If you're absolutely committed to what it is that you're trying to accomplish, you will overcome any obstacle. The obstacle is the way, as Ryan Holiday says, and you will become resilient and you will learn. As the General Hannibal, not the one from the A-Team, the one from ancient Roman times said, I will find a way or make a way. So if that goal is that important to you, it's something that you need to have, it's part of your very essence, then you will find a way. And finding a coach or mentor or somebody to help give you the information or the guidance or the alliances or the skill sets or the resources that you need, you will discover it and do it no matter what. And so the issue is that too many people don't have that laser-like focus, that belief of what they need to accomplish. And if they did, then they would have more of a power to push them along. So I entered financial services because my godfather and namesake died unexpectedly and we lost the family farm. Period, case closed. That's why I entered the industry. And then years later, my best friend died at 42 years old from cancer. And his wife was sitting around after the funeral and everything, 5 kids, 5 boys, said thank you, because the planning that I had laid the groundwork for years ago, that they had continued when I had shifted out of being a full-time planner, kept going, and the disability insurance paid, the life insurance paid, the kids were going to college. There were no worries financially. They just had to worry about making sure the kids developed into be good young men and eventually leaders. And so that was part of the responsibility of the godfathers to step in and do that. But they did not have to have any worries. And so every single time that I'm talking with a young advisor, I'm like, you need to go pay a death claim. You need to go listen to a lifehappens.org video multiple times every single day. You need to get this belief, because if you don't believe well enough, you're not going to make sales, because sales is a transfer of belief. But you're doing this to help other people. And if you don't do it, they're not going to be taken care of. And some kid is not going to go to college. Some person's going to lose their home. Somebody's not going to be able to retire. Some person's not going to have the care that they need when they're elderly. There's going to be all these bad things because you decided to not pick up the phone that day, or you decided to not ask for an introduction because you were feeling a little squeamish or whatever. You need to have this belief, this fire, and that's what's going to carry you, and that's what's going to make you successful. And so if you believe in it that much, just like, Chris believed in trying to win the NBA championship. If you want it that badly, you're going to get up in the morning. You're going to do the reps. You're going to do the work. You're going to be willing to have somebody yell at you because it makes you better and moves you towards that goal of taking care of that.
So, Joe, let me ask a question. I'm going to ask a real question to another sports guy / coach. You hear on a regular basis that good players don't make good coaches and vice versa.
Yep.
Tell us your thoughts on that.
So good coaches with people who don't care about getting better are going to have an absolutely lousy record. Now, good coaches who have players who have a lot of talent are going to get the most out of that talent. I mean, look at me. I'm definitely not your classical financial services guy. I'm a nerd. I mean, I'm not what you would expect, but I was able to succeed because I had some good mentors and good belief systems to help bring me up. So a player without great talent with a good coach can unlock most of their ability. If they have a lousy coach, guess what? They're quitting. They're going to another company. And that's one of the reasons why we see a lot of people, leave their organization that brought them in, is because they don't have a coach or mentor that can draw the best out of them and inspire them. Now, the same thing is that, so a bad manager can destroy good talent. A bad player can destroy a good organization. If somebody's got a really bad attitude, and you've probably seen that in teams in the past. And the thing is, if you can have even average, then they can bring it both up. And if you have somebody that is very good at seeing that potential in others and getting them to draw out, and you've got somebody who's got a lot of fire, those are the people who can become champions. So there are so many stories of people who are not a first or even second round pick who end up going on to the Hall of Fame because they had a coach that believed in them and they had the belief in themselves and their mission, and they were willing to do the work. Plus, sometimes caught the lucky breaks, but the work ethic combined with the vision that is being brought to them from their coach, from their family, from the team around them, that's what's necessary. And so this is one of the reasons why I tell managers, raise your standards, because the standards have all slipped during COVID. Everybody can get away without wearing a suit and tie, or everybody had the apocalypse beard, or they were wearing shorts into the meetings. I can't tell you a number of organizations where people don't even know how to tie a tie anymore. It's dumbfounding. But having that higher standard and saying, you need to see X number of people per week, or else you're going to be gone. I will help you do it, but I will not do it for you. As the great Pat Summitt told her own son years ago, and this one has stuck with me, I will help you, but I will not start your engine. So managers need to take people who are willing to work and show them the right way and polish them and train them and bring them on up. And people who are unwilling to work or don't want to, they ultimately need to go someplace else, because culture will be self-reinforcing and make everybody who walks in through that door be better.
When you mention players, it just brings me back to the time of hearing a coach and hearing my coach say to us, do the first thing first every day, do the things you don't like to do every day.
Eat the frog.
But I have to ask something. And so what happens when you win the championship?
Mm-hmm.
I always see the guys who win, and then all of a sudden they're, the burning fire, the desire starts to wane, right?
Yeah, that was their goal, and
right.
They achieved it, so now they need a new goal.
Right. So it's difficult for them to find that success. I talk with athletes. I work with a bunch of athletes that are former professional athletes, and try to convince them that this is the career with your skill set that's already being built, retooled. Mm-hmm. You can be ace. You could be a all-star in this industry, right? And one of the challenges is the psychological challenge is that they don't get the popcorn. They can't smell the popcorn coming out of the people yelling.
They don't get the accolades. They don't get the quick hit and the sensation. It's more like they have to go back to when they were like in junior high school, and it's the daily grind for years before they get the chance to play on Friday nights for the football team, or to have, the music playing for them. So they have to go back. And unfortunately, they've climbed to the top and they want to transfer immediately to the top of the next mountain. Chuck Norris says, when you finish climbing the mountain, you need to set your sights on the next one. When I finish a race, a Ragnar or an ultra marathon, I register for the next one immediately. So if it's 2 weeks away or 2 months away, I don't get that letdown. Yes, I'm like sort of depressed the next day. It's called a Ragnover because you just accomplished something really big. It's a little bit like postpartum, but you immediately have the next thing to focus on. Kobe Bryant said that the time that he was most depressed was after he won his first NBA championship, because that is all that he had focused on his entire life, was winning that championship. But after he won it, he was depressed. He was hollow, literally, because, all right, I did it. What am I supposed to do?
Now what? Right.
But then he changed his focus. And he said the goal was not then to win a championship. It was to win multiple championships. The goal was to see how many he could win. The goal was to see how great he could become. And the mindset changed. And so working out after a game, and doing the icing down and taking rest, which for very driven individuals like us is very, very difficult. The hardest thing in the world for me to actually is rest. So, but it all became part of the plan to be the greatest that he could be. And that became the challenge, not necessarily winning any particular game, even though he gave everything in every game. It was, how great can I become? How can I win as much as possible instead of just winning the one? And so in our space, so you make $1 million round table. That's awesome. First time you do it, accolades, great. Woohoo. Second time you do it, all right. Now, how do we change it so that you're making MDRT instead of in mid-December? How can you qualify by Thanksgiving?
Right.
Or instead of making $1 million round table, how do you get to quarter the table to get to that next level? So instead of playing in the NBA, how do you become an all-star? How do you, eventually become a Hall of Famer? And so it's that challenge for yourself. It's your conscientiousness on the big 5 personality traits, pushing it so that you have a really, really high C, so that you demand more of yourself. And that then creates a standard of excellence. And if you have this combination of internal fire and setting up the environment around you to help support it and push you, that's where you're going to be as excellent as possible.
Well,
so go ahead, Suzanne.
I was going to say, like Blake Griffin always says, his coach says, you have to fall in love with being great, right? And then it's the Michael Jordan Last Dance, games within games, constantly being able to get those games, to get that leverage on yourself to, to not slide into stasis, right?
Yeah, it doesn't matter last season. Okay, so you won then. What are you doing this season? And in our world, you get that every day. Okay, we're recording this on Monday. Doesn't matter what you did on Friday. It doesn't matter if you got 7 introductions. Doesn't matter if you wrote 15,000 a premium. What are you doing today? What are you doing this week? And so this is actually a page from the Alcoholics book. That sounds bad, but what's the most important day? It's today. What can I do today to be the best possible I can? And you should have no regrets. Meaning at the end of the day, you did everything that you could. But also when you wake up the next morning, don't regret that, you did all sorts of horrible things. So having that balance of no regrets because you did the right thing every single day and you're living as if it's the last day in your business, but also that you're going to be in this business for another 100 years. If you can maintain that balance, that's where you're going to get the sweet spot and you're going to end up in flow and you'll really produce some awesome things.
So complacency, if I'm in the driver's seat, right? I've won a couple of championships, right? How do you win? How do you set yourself up? Because effort has compound interest also,
yes,
right? And so given that scenario, I've witnessed reps, I've coached reps, and they talk about this hyper growth, right? Is where you have that controlled environment for an elongated period of time. And then when success happens, what our coach said, don't read the press clippings, right? You don't read what happened yesterday because at the end of the day, we got a game tomorrow, right? So our coach wouldn't let us read the paper, right? Because all of a sudden it would,
start big head. Woo, I'm so awesome.
Yeah. Let me read how awesome I am, right? But that also so how do you get to hyper growth? You mentioned MDRT, but I've seen and I've experienced, I was one of them, where every check I made after MDRT, I literally put it away and forgot it existed in my mind, right? And so because it created that environment and the desire, right, to do better than not only that person, but hey, I'm just as good as them. I'm just as talented as them,
Oh.
right? I played with, I got to practice with Jordan every day in '97, right? And one of the things he told us, I remember playing on, and he's like, I breathe just like you guys. I put my shoes on just like you guys. At the end of the day, my skill may be more developed than yours, but if I can do it, you can do it. So my mindset has always been, if somebody can achieve it, I can do it. And if no one's done it, I need to be the first to do it. Right. Those are only two.
And in the financial services space, we can all learn to do things. Like, I can't learn to be tall like you. Period. Case closed. I'm not going to get stretched out. I don't have the natural physical talents, but I can learn how somebody interacts with somebody else. I can learn about using if-then statements within my discussions with clients. I can learn that one question that so-and-so asks their clients that helps them bond better. I can see how somebody is using technology in their business. And that's one of the beautiful things about NAIFA is we are literally an open book in a lot of ways. In no other field will somebody tell you their trade secrets. In our world, we do. Anybody asks me, how do you do this? I'll be like, this is how I do it. This is how I do it. This is the mistakes I made. Here's how I use it. Go do it. And so literally people are handing each other tools. And the question is, are you going to use it or not? So we can compound in a lot of ways. And the big thing is that I've found that helps some people is to have the appropriate challenge. So if you've got somebody who's performing about the same level that you are, then have bets with each other. Short-term bets, like weekly, monthly ones, like, whoever gets the most fact finders this week, the other one has to wash their car. That's always a great one. So, I got 6 fact finders this week. I got 7. Bam. And even though you're doing something that's causing you to grow, this person's growing slightly faster. And so now what happens? It ignites that competitive juice. And so you're going to get better. So like my best friend growing up, she's from Vietnam. She was the salutatorian of our class and everything. And so there was always this competition of pushing each other to be better. It's the Bird and Magic Johnson sort of thing, where they came into the league approximately the same time. And they kept making the other one up their game. And so find somebody like that to work with to up your game, to have that friendly rivalry. That works for some people. Other people will say, they set the goal, okay, I'm going to hit doing $400,000 of premium this year, or I need to buy this house or something like that. Some people, they need to have that focus on one particular thing. So the biggest thing is having the meta awareness. Understanding who you are, what motivates you, and then tapping into that. Because this is one of the things that, some of the best coaches, the Zen Master probably did this, was finding what motivated that particular individual and being able to press that button. Is it, competing to get a suit? Is it bragging rights? Is it, getting a beer on Friday afternoon? So, essentially being able to understand and apply the 5 love languages from Chapman in a lot of ways is a really smart idea, is understanding what moves the needle for that particular individual and being able to then do that.
Right. So collectively, I heard you say we need a pace car, right? We need somebody we need to pace. We need to find someone,
we need a rabbit for a race.
We need a rabbit. We need to set our sights here, because looking forward, we're only going to get so far, right? So just like climbing a mountain, we have to look up to be able to go up a mountain. You can't look here trying to go up, right? And there was a trying to climb that mountain and trying to become the best version of ourselves. I think you said it, Joe. This is fantastic. I think we need a part 2, Suzanne.
I agree. Isn't it great?
He's got a lot of knowledge.
That's why he's part of that coach's circle. So I know, Joe, before we go to the lightning round, I do want to make sure we mention your book. So can you tell us a little bit about Everyday Excellence?
So Everyday Excellence, which has this really cool nonlinear growth curve on the front that I was talking about, is a multivitamin for life. And it's not just for people in financial services. It actually makes a great gift for clients because they'll see it every day and remember you. But every day starts with a quote, and then there's discussion and analysis around it so that we can improve across multiple parameters of our life, where it's our personal health, our physical health, our communication skills. And then the big difference between my book and a lot of the other ones is that there's an action item every single day. So the reader has to do something to improve themselves. And it could be something as difficult as writing down all the reasons you're upset with somebody and crossing them off one by one, saying, I forgive you for this. I forgive you for that. That one's really hard. Or it could be something as easy as smiling at 5 people today. Because when you smile, it improves your biochemistry. It makes you, it does. I mean, it reduces your cortisol, it increases your serotonin. It can produce oxytocin, so that we've got all these good things. It reduces your belly fat, by the way, so smiling is good for you. And when you smile at somebody else, they want to smile back just like you are. So I've given you the gift of health. And by the way, you're going to be about 25 to 30% more receptive and more creative and intelligent for the next 10 to 15 minutes. So smiling at others gives them a gift, and it turns around and helps you. So these little things, these biohacks or actions that compound, and you get a little bit better here, a little bit better there. And at the end of a year, you're in a much different mental, physical, and financial place because of all these compounded improvements.
Joe, it's amazing. Your wealth of knowledge. The word is that you did how many podcasts in 2022?
Roughly 300.
So 300 podcasts. That's a lot. I know people don't realize that being on a podcast, the lighting, being in a location where you got a stable signal and blah, 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 all these things that go along with being effective and efficient and productive on a podcast. You've planted the seed. You're a loyal NAIFA member. You now are going to be part of the DNA of NAIFA as we start to really go to the next level. As we climb collectively as an organization, you will become part of all of our lives, not only from this book, but Joe, how do we get the book? I mean, you just told me something. I can improve 1% every day in every way. I get it, right? So share with me, how do we get this book? Are you sending it to Chris Gandy only? Is that how this works? Or
dude, I'll give you a copy, signed copy. But so they can get on Amazon if they want. But actually, if they go to my website, everyday-excellence.com, that's everyday-excellence.com. There's a lot of free resources there. Every single day I put up a blog post. It's got links to the podcast. It's got links to the YouTube channel that I do every single day. We're connecting my TikTok. No, I don't dance on my TikTok. But it's got all these additional free resources for you. But at checkout from the website, if you use the code NAIFA, NAIFA, use that code, you get a 10% discount. So you get a discount.
I'm ordering mine now, Joe. Look, I'm ordering mine now.
Awesome. So, I'll make sure that I sign it with a good message for you, buddy.
Yeah, I want a couple of versions.
Who doesn't want in for that, right? Who doesn't want in on that?
I want one in our office here, and as we launch new advisors, right, that becomes part of our, I don't know how many chapters in there, that becomes part of our weekly digest of reading. We have in our repertoire, we make them read Think and Grow Rich, How to Be a Successful Financial Advisor, the Al Granum / Successful OCS system, the systematic approach, right? We make them read that, right? And so this would be one that would be a great kind of collective program for them to do.
Because this helps them work on their daily discipline, and discipline transfers into the business. If you are used to running marathons or practicing an instrument every single day or doing difficult things on a regular basis, you can take that mindset and apply it to ask for the introductions from that client or to ask somebody for the $100,000 premium a lot easier because you're used to facing your fears and overcoming Wimp Junction, as Pete Grider talked about. So being a better version of you allows you to be a better professional and ultimately more successful.
All right, wonderful. Suzanne, I'm voting for a round 2 with Joe. Joe, if you'd be so kind. I don't know, Suzanne's the boss.
Absolutely. I'm here to serve.
We'd love to come back and have a conversation about this up here.
Yeah.
This 90%, our ability to connect psychologically to the actions. We missed that piece because we didn't have a lot of time, but I know you have a lot there of how to connect this to this, right? The desire, and it moves our feet, right? How do we connect those two, create those neurons, fire them up, get them moving.
That'll be a fun conversation.
Right. So I know there's something that I know because I actually work with a coach and that work high performance coach and whatever, blah, blah, blah. You know, so I work in that arena a lot. And we're always trying to get, like I said, 1% better every day in every way, right? And how do we improve? It's not about perfection; it's about progress. And you know, so you'll hear some things from me. So we'll kind of talk about that. So Suzanne, do you have anything before we get into?
I think it's time to go. No, because I think for Joe especially, the lightning round is going to be just fascinating. I can't even wait because
is this like a living Rorschach test?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Joe, let me kind of share with you. So the goal of this is, everyone, this is not scripted. This is something that literally in the morning, I look up 10 questions that I'm going to ask, and I look for the most interesting question to ask Joe. So here's the deal. First thing is like mind mapping, right? First thing that comes to mind, I just want you to say it, right? You can tell us a little story about it if you'd like to, but if not, we'll move on to the next one, and we'll wrap up with a question that typically makes people say, like it makes them think about what's more important and what's not. Okay, so is that fair?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we'll start off something really easy. What's your favorite dessert?
I don't eat a lot of dessert.
I know. That's why I asked the question.
See? There's that discipline.
Ice cream.
Ice cream. Okay, got it. Okay, see how easy that was, Joe? Very easy. Okay, let's go. So your favorite author?
J.R.R. Tolkien. Same initials.
So a book, if I was an advisor, you would recommend I read outside of yours?
The Trusted Advisor.
Okay. Joe, you mentioned you're a coach. Who's the best coach you've ever had or mentor in your life?
That would be Master Daniel Grant, who my oldest son is named after.
Perfect. And so who is the best coach you've ever seen or observed at a professional level in sports and or any other?
Ooh.
Suzanne, I got the
Phil Jackson.
Bill Jackson, the Zen Master.
The
right?
Zen Master, yes.
Zen Master. Your favorite place to travel?
Family cabin in the mountains.
Okay.
Oh.
If you were your younger self, what advice would you give to your younger self when you started in the career?
Have more boundaries.
Have more boundaries. Can you tell, what do you mean by that?
I let some people in leadership push me around and do some things that I would never allow at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a little young. I was a little naive. I wanted to please. I thought that doing exactly what others did in terms of complying, not compliance, because compliance is good, but complying was the right way to be able to ultimately reach and help more people. And there's a saying, differences sell. Be your unique self. Stop trying to be a version of Tom Hegna or Van Miller or any of these other people. Be the absolute best version of you. And if they don't like it, that's a them problem.
If you can come back in history, last question, you can come back and if anyone in history and have dinner with one person, anyone living now or that have lived in the past, who would you have dinner with and why?
Bruce Lee.
Bruce Lee.
Yeah, makes sense. Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Guy was 135 pounds and could do 200 push-ups with one arm.
Yeah.
He faced adversity. He changed the world.
But it's his mentality, right? And reading about him and his
and he drew from everything, whether it was European fencing, Russian wrestling, Western boxing, Wing Chun. The guy took everything and distilled it into what was uniquely him.
So Suzanne's responsibility now is to read like water.
Mm-hmm.
So, see, there you go. So, I actually pay attention, right? So like water, it's a great read. It makes you think.
Okay.
Basic elements of who we are and the essence of who we are. It's a great book. Anyways, Joe, thank you so much for appearing on the first version of 2023's NAIFA Advisors podcast. What a wonderful one. If you have not seen this, go on to NAIFA, look at this. We'll have another version coming. Joe, thank you so much. Suzanne, do you have anything before we close?
I would just say look for more webinars coming up with starring Joe Templin, more knowledge to come. And it's always a pleasure to be here, Chris.
Suzanne and Chris, thank you.
Go ahead, Joe.
Thank you for the opportunity to share, be excellent, and grow today.
All right, Joe, can you hold up that book so everyone can get a picture of that? And where can they get it?
Everyday-excellence.com.
Everyday-excellence.com.
Yeah. So
All right.
smiling gets us all happy. Then certainly like throwing kisses, that has to even be better, right?
Even better.
So if everybody's going to smile today, I'll close this out. Thank you, everyone, for being here on NAIFA's Advisor Today podcast, where we're actually progressing 1% better every day in every way. And we're here to support, grow, uplift, empower the future advisors of tomorrow. And we look forward to seeing you on our next podcast. Thank you so much. Let's smile away the thing. Yeah, we'll see you guys next week. Great job, Joe. What a wonderful conversation. We appreciate you.
Thanks for joining us for NAIFA's Advisor Today podcast series. Make sure to subscribe to get future episodes. And if you're interested in coming on the show, let us know.